Namaste. Welcome to this global online Ramlila festival. It's the first of its kind in the world. It's going to bring together countries from around the world to perform Ramlila, this Ram Katha, as told in two styles. You will see the dramatic theatrical style or the Natya Dharmi style, and then you'll see the Loka Dharmi style, Maidani, in the open air. The last one is a kind of very old style of performing that's still present in countries like Trinidad, Suriname and Fiji, and in many parts of North India. So this is the first of its kind in the world. And because of the COVID-19, many places will be unable to perform the Leelas they normally do. So Ayodhya Research Institute has decided to put together videos from the different parts of the world where they perform the Ramlila and to showcase for you the different styles. The Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts will also be joining with the Ayodhya Research Institute in sharing their archives of different performances that they have recorded across India, Southeast Asia, and even Russia. So I invite you to enjoy this festival for nearly 30 days.
रामायण सतकोट या पारा। रामायण कितने रूपों में कहाँ कैसे विस्तारित है, अयोध्या शोध संस्थान से शोध करते हुए जो निष्कर्ष मिल रहे हैं वो अत्यंत आश्चर्यजनक हैं। कलिंग युद्ध के बाद पहली बार भारतीय संस्कृति का माइग्रेशन दूसरे देशों में हुआ। अगर आप भारत के नक्शे को ध्यान से देखें तो जो पूर्वी तट है हमारा, उड़ीसा, तमिल और आंध्र प्रदेश, पश्चिम बंगाल, वहाँ से जो कला हमारी कलिंग युद्ध के बाद 200-300 ईस्वी पूर्व से जो विस्तार हुआ, तो साउथ ईस्ट एशिया में वो सारे कला रूप हमें मिलते हैं।
भारत के हर राज्य में, हर भाषा में रामलीला का आयोजन होता है और दुनिया के अंदर भी लगभग हर भाषा में, हर देश के अंदर रामलीला का मंचन किसी न किसी रूप में होता है।
राम सब जगह है, राम सबके। इसलिए राम भारत की अनेकता में एकता के सूत्र है। साथियों, दुनिया में कितने ही देश राम के नाम का वंदन करते हैं। वहां के नागरिक खुद को श्री राम से जुड़ा हुआ मानते हैं। विश्व की सर्वाधिक मुस्लिम जनसंख्या जिस देश में है वो है इंडोनेशिया। वहां हमारे देश की तरह काकानीन रामायण, स्वर्णदीप रामायण, योगेश्वर रामायण जैसी कई अनूठी रामायण, राम आज भी वहां पूजनीय है। कंबोडिया में रमकेर रामायण है, लाओ में तालाब रामायण है, मलेशिया में हिकायत शेरी राम, तो थाईलैंड में रामाकेन है। आपको ईरान और चीन में भी राम के प्रसंग तथा राम कथाओं का विवरण है।
Every year for the past 107 years, Dow Village in California, central Trinidad, has celebrated a Ramlila. The Ramlila is a play which depicts the events recounted in the Hindu classic, the Holy Ramayana. On the communally owned Ramlila ground, for 2 hours over 11 evenings, the adventures of Rama and Sita, which have thrilled countless generations, are reenacted by the villagers. For a short while, everyday existence is put aside and the legendary characters of the Ramayana come to life. Ram and his brother Lakshman were searching for Ram's wife Sita, who had been kidnapped by the demon king Ravan. rejoin the game as Sugriv, king of the monkeys, lives up to his promise to help Ram recover Sita.
Ram was telling Sugriv, "Brother, you are as dear to me as Bharat. Now with all your heart, make some effort to get news of Sita." While they talked, multitudes of monkeys arrived. Legions of monkeys of various colors were visible in all quarters. They all came and bowed their heads at Ram's feet, and they found their true Lord in his face. Ram spoke to the monkeys. There was none he did not greet separately. This was not difficult for the Lord of the Raghus. The monkeys stood in martial array, and King Sugriv then instructed them to spread throughout the earth to search for Sita. On hearing his command, the monkeys scattered in various directions, while Sugriv called to him the princes Hanuman, Nil, Anul, and Angad, and the wise bear Jamvan. He said, "Hanuman, Nil, Anul, Angad, and Jamvan, you are all resolute, valiant, and wise. Proceed all of you with your warriors to the south, and inquire of everyone you meet of Sita's whereabouts. Use all the means at your disposal to devise some means of tracing her, and thereby accomplish the Lord Ram's wishes." Thus Sugriv spoke to Angad, Prince Hanuman, Nil, Anul, and the old bear Jamwan. Before they left, Ram raised his hand and blessed Hanuman, telling him, "O Hanuman, it is only you that will find Sita." Recognizing Hanuman's devotion, Ram gave him the ring from his finger, and he told Hanuman, "O Hanuman, comfort Sita in whatever ways you can. Assure her of my constancy and the agony of my heart caused by our separation. Return quickly with news of her." Then, bowing their heads to Sugriv, the monkeys and the bear Jamwan left on their mission with their thoughts fixed on the Lord of the Raghus, Ram. When eventually they arrived at the seashore, they despaired of the success of their search. They had got no word of Sita, and feared returning to Sugriv without news. They gathered round and discussed their present plight. Angad, with tears in his eyes, told the gathering, "What shall we gain by returning? It is death for us whichever way we go. We have failed to get tidings of Sita, and if we return, King Sugriv will behead us." While they were talking, Sampati, the brother of the faithful vulture Jatayu, heard their words from his place of hiding, and emerged to discover who was there. Angad said, "There was no one so blessed as Jatayu, who laid down his life for Ram and ascended to the abode of Sirihari." When Sampati heard these words, which stirred in him a mixture of joy and grief, he came near the monkeys. He told them, "I can help you only if you follow my instructions and set about the business of the Lord. He said further, on the summit of Mount Trikut is the city of Lanka. There lives Ravan in absolute security, and there in a grove of Ashoka trees sits Sita, a prey to grief. He who can leap over the 800 miles of ocean between here and Lanka will be able to do the will of Ram and find Sita. Leaving them much amazed, Sampati left the monkeys to resume his mourning for his brother. The monkeys began talking among themselves, discussing their relative strengths and the ability of any of their number to leap the ocean. Jamwan, king of the bears, said, I am now too old, and not a particle of my former strength is left in my body. Angad said, I could certainly leap the ocean, but I am doubtful whether I could return. Jamwan then approached Hanuman. Hanuman, he said, how is it you are keeping silent? As the son of the wind god, you are as strong as your father. You are a storehouse of good sense, discretion, and knowledge. What undertaking in this world is too difficult that you could not accomplish it? It is for the service of Ram that you have come down on earth. The moment that Hanuman heard these words, he grew to the size of a mountain, with a body shining like gold and full of splendor. Roaring again and again like a lion, Hanuman said, I can easily spring across the salt ocean, and killing Ravan and all his army, I can uproot Mount Trikut and bring it here. But I ask you, Jamwan, kindly tender me suitable advice. Jamwan said, all that you have to do, my son, is to go and find Sita, and return with her tidings, and then the lotus-eyed Ram will recover her by the strength of his arm, taking with him a host of monkeys for mere sport. Hanuman said, wait for me here, my friends, however severe the hardships. Wait until I return from seeing Sita. So saying, and after bowing to them all, he set out full of joy with the image of Ram enshrined in his heart. Hanuman leapt over the ocean, and while he was flying over the ocean, the deity in charge of the ocean spoke to the submerged Mount Maina and requested that the mountain rise and provide a resting place for Hanuman. Mount Maina rose up out of the ocean, and Hanuman merely touched it with his hand, bowing to it, saying, there can be no rest for me until I have done Ram's bidding. Hanuman went on his way across the ocean. The gods wished to test Hanuman further, and sent Surasa the sea serpent. On seeing Hanuman, Surasa said, the gods have provided me with a meal today. Hanuman, son of the wind god, replied, O Sursa, when I have accomplished Lord Ram's commission and returned to him with news of Sita, then I will put myself in your mouth. This I promise you. Only let me go now. However, Surasa would not let him pass. She opened her mouth 8 miles wide to consume Hanuman. Even as she did this, Hanuman grew to twice the size of her gaping jaws. Surasa opened her mouth still further, to a distance of 800 miles. The giant monkey god then shrunk himself very small. Having reduced himself to a minute form, he swiftly entered the sea serpent's mouth and flew out again. Bowing his head to her, he left on his way. Having escaped the ravenous jaws of Surasa, Hanuman soon reached the other side of the vast ocean. Climbing Mount Trikut, Hanuman looked down at last on Ravan's city of Lanka. Lanka spread out before him in all its glory. Its golden walls were high and studded with precious stones. Behind these walls, the chief of the monkeys could see a formidable army of demons guarding the city. Seeing these fortifications, Hanuman decided to once again shrink himself to a very small form and enter the city at night. When night fell, Hanuman transformed himself into a wasp and, invoking the name of his Lord Ram, entered Lanka. Having assumed that tiny form, Hanuman searched Lanka until he came to the Ashoka Grove, where he saw Sita. Sita sat, with her eyes fixed on her own feet, while her mind was absorbed with thoughts of Ram. The son of the wind god felt supremely miserable to see King Janak's daughter so sad. He hid himself among the leaves in the grove and contemplated his next move. At that moment, King Ravan arrived in the Ashoka Grove. He began to speak words of love to Sita. He told her that if she would cast her eyes on him only once, he would make all his other queens her handmaidens. Sita told him that she needed no one but her Lord Rama. She loved no one, nor needed no one but her Lord Rama. She said, "Listen, O Ravan, will the lotus spread its blossom to the light of a firefly? Fear you not the wrath of my lord? Shameless monster, you are but a glowworm, while even the sun is only a shadow to my lord Rama." Hearing this speech, Ravan cried in utmost fury, "Sita, you have outraged me. I will give you a month to change your mind. If by that time you do not bend to my will, I will separate your head from your body." The furious Ravan, having threatened the life of Ram's wife, returned to his palace, leaving Sita to take refuge in thoughts of Ram. Hanuman, who had witnessed what had happened, took off the ring Ram had given him and threw it at the feet of Sita. Sita saw the ring, picked it up, and stared at it with disbelief. Recognizing it as her husband's ring, she looked at it with wonder, while feelings of joy and sorrow fought each other in her heart. Maybe someone is playing a trick on me, she thought. While she was thus in thought, Hanuman, speaking gently in honeyed accents, began to recite the praises of Lord Ram.
Sri Guru Charan Saroj Raj.
Hanuman, seeing that Sita suspected a trick when she discovered Ram's ring at her feet, started to gently and softly tell the story of Lord Ram. Sita asked herself, "Who is it that is telling this tale that is like nectar to my ears?" Hanuman descended from the tree and appeared in front of Sita and said, "O Sita, I am Hanuman. I come as the messenger of our Lord Ram, and bring his ring as a token of his constancy and anguish at his separation from you." As Sita heard the monkey's affectionate words, her heart went out to him, and she recognized him to be the true servant of the all-merciful Lord Ram, Rama Chandraki. Perceiving the monkey's devotion, her eyes filled with tears, and she trembled with emotion. She said, "O Hanuman, I was drowning in the ocean of despair, but in you I have found a ship to bear my spirit above those dark waters." Hanuman spoke comfortingly, "My lady, you have nothing to fear. You will be delivered. But right now I am terribly hungry, and these trees are laden with fruit." Sita was amused at the monkey's appetite in the face of danger, and warned him that the grove was heavily guarded by the most fearful demons. Hanuman said he was not afraid of any demons in Lanka, and went straight to pluck the fruit from the trees. The demons saw him in the grove and confronted him. Hanuman, disturbed in his meal, charged at the demons, scattering them in all directions. Demons ran into Lanka and told King Ravan that there was a ferocious monkey in the Ashoka grove who was destroying the beautiful gardens and had killed many of their number. Ravan summoned his son Maidani, who fitted to his bow a magic dart given to him by Brahma. When Hanuman saw the weapon, he allowed himself to be succumbed, in order that Brahma's gift not be seen to fail. He was bound and brought into Lanka before King Ravan. How strong and powerful the monkey chief Hanuman was. When the 10-headed demon Ravan saw the monkey, he laughed. Ravan laughed and laughed at the sight of the monkey before him. Then he gave orders to the demons to destroy Hanuman, son of the wind god. But Ravan's virtuous brother Vibhishan came forward and cautioned Ravan that it was contrary to all custom that a messenger be killed. Hearing these words, Ravan relented and ordered instead that Hanuman be mutilated. He told the demons that since a monkey's strength lies in his tail, they should soak his tail in oil and ghee and set fire to it. Hanuman, hearing this, just laughed. The demons did the king's bidding and soaked Hanuman's tail in oil and set it afire. Hanuman again reduced himself in size, slipped his bonds, and ran through the city with his tail blazing. As he ran, he called on the four winds, and grew to enormous size, going from building to building, soon setting the whole city ablaze with his tail. As Lanka blazed, Hanuman watched it until it was totally destroyed. He then returned to Sita and said, "O my lady, pray give me some token that I may carry to the Lord Rama." Sita unfastened a jewel from her hair and gave it to Hanuman. Hanuman bowed to her and leapt into the sky to return to Lord Rama.
Join us in Dao village for the last episode of the Ramlila when Hanuman returns to Ram with news of Sita. We rejoin the game as Hanuman, who has returned to Ram with news of Sita, shows him the ornaments Sita sent for him.
Ram gazed at the jewels as if in a trance. How lost was the lord of the Raghus, how sad. Ram then turned to his brother Lakshman and said, "O Lakshman, what could be more painful than to hold these jewels without Sita? As beautiful as they may be, what use is it admiring them without her?" Hanuman then described the state of affairs in Lanka to Ram, his brother Lakshman, and the rest of the monkeys. He said, "O my lord Ram, Sita would not let me bring her with me, for she feels her honor will only be vindicated when you come and vanquish the demon king, Ravan." Ram then told the gathering, "I will go to Lanka at once." Rama and Lakshman, accompanied by Sugrim, Hanuman, and the monkey army, started out on the long journey to Lanka. While they journeyed to the sea, there was in Lanka a conversation between Ravan and his brother Vibhishan. Having heard that Ram, his brother, and the monkey army were marching on Lanka, Vibhishan spoke to Ravan. "My master, O king, for the sake of your own welfare, reputation, and glory, I beg of you, turn away from the face of another man's wife. Lust, passion, vanity, and covetousness are all paths that lead to hell. Reject them and worship the Lord of the Raghus, whom all saints worship. O my Lord, give him back Sita and seek his forgiveness. The Lord has never abandoned any one who has fled to him for protection, though he were guilty of having ruined the whole world. Again and again I fall at your feet and beg you, O King Ravan. Ravan exploded with fury when he heard his brother speak those words. He cursed him. O wretch, you are within an inch of your death now, O fool. It is only through me that you have been able to live at all. You live in my kingdom, yet you take the side of my enemies. You had better go to them if you want to preach, O fool. So saying, the King Ravan kicked his brother out of Lanka. Vibhishan left Lanka in search of Ram and his brother Lakshman. Meanwhile, Ram and his army had arrived at the edge of the ocean. There before them, water, featureless and cold, stretched to the horizon. They stood on the shore and pondered on the task ahead of them. "Oh, how shall we cross this vast ocean?" asked Ram. At that time, the monkeys saw Vibhishan approaching, and they went forth to meet him. Thinking he had come to spy on them, they questioned him. One of the monkeys left to speak to Rama. "O Lord Ram, I suspect a conspiracy. You must not trust Ravan's brother Vibhishan." And Rama answered, "Oh no, anyone coming seeking refuge shall receive it. If he has come out of fear to sue for mercy, I shall protect him as I would my own life." As the monkeys led Vibhishan into his presence, Ram approached him and welcomed him. After a long discussion with Vibhishan, Ram was able to acquaint himself with the military strength of the enemy. Rama Chandra ki. They stood at the edge of the vast ocean, seeking a way to cross. Rama said to the Lord of the Ocean, "O Ocean, make a path for my army to cross to Lanka." Ram prayed and fasted for 3 days without response from the ocean. Enraged with fury, Ram set an arrow in his bow and aimed at the ocean. He said, "My patience has been mistaken for weakness, O ocean. But with this arrow I shall dry up your domain so that across the dry seabed my army may cross to Lanka on foot to rescue my beloved Sita from the cruel clutches of the demon king Ravan." Immediately the Lord of the Ocean, hearing the threat from Ram, rose from the water and said, "O Lord of the Raghus, stay your hand. You have with you the monkeys Nil and Nul, who are great builders. Let them construct a bridge over my waters, and I will hold it up." The Lord of the Ocean then sank back into the water. The monkeys searched the seashore and gathered materials to build the bridge over the vast ocean. Ram cast the first stone, but the stone sank. When the monkeys saw this, they despaired, for they thought that if the Lord himself throws the first stone and it sinks, what can they do to cross the ocean? Hanuman, whose devotion for the Lord Rama was unbounded, took up a stone and wrote the name of Ram on the stone. He approached the edge of the ocean and threw the inscribed stone into the watery depths. It floated. Rama Chandra ki. The monkeys, seeing this, brought all the stones to Hanuman, and Hanuman stood at the edge of the sea and wrote the name Rama on each one. The monkeys poured the stones into the ocean under the instruction of Nil and Nul. The monkeys rejoiced as they constructed the bridge to cross the Lord of the Raghus over to the other side. Mahavir Swami ki. There, with Ram and Lakshman on his shoulders, Hanuman began crossing the vast ocean to Lanka.
Mahavir Swami ki jai!
Hanuman crossed that vast ocean with Ram and his brother Lakshman on his shoulders. After him came all the rest of the monkeys, the old bear Jamwan, Nil and Nul, and Prince Angad. Together they marched on Lanka. Rama Chandra ki. Meanwhile, in Lanka, Ravan was meeting his ministers. They warned him and begged him. Please, O king, return Sita to the Lord of the Raghus, Lord Ram. But proud Ravan refused to listen. You are disturbed by idle fears. Is there any warrior in this world my equal? What is there to be afraid of? Men, monkeys, and bears are our natural food. Ram has managed to cross the ocean and reach the walls of Lanka, but he will never return home alive. Ravan then sent out his demons to make ready Lanka's defenses. Nearby, on Mount Suvela, Ram and Lakshman were encamped with their monkey army. Sugrim spied the king Ravan improving the defenses of Lanka, and he told the Lord, "My lord, look there at Ravan." On a sudden impulse, Sugrim leapt from the mountain and approached Ravan. There then began a fierce battle between the monkey king Sugrim and the demon king Ravan. During the fight, Sugrim took the crown off of Ravan's head and threw it to the ground. Then he left the king Ravan and returned to his lord Ram.
Ramachandra ki!
Sugrim called Prince Angad and told him to go into the city of Lanka and test the enemy's strength. Angad left immediately and entered the demon city. Meeting Ravan, he said, "O Ravan, it is not too late to save yourself. Return Sita to Ram and seek his forgiveness, or Ram will surely slay you." So saying, Angad planted his feet firmly and challenged the demons present to try to move them. "If you can stir my foot, you wretches, Ram will take to flight and surrender Sita." The demons tried all they could, but the monkey's foot did not stir. Finally, they had to give up and retired broken. Rama Chandra ki.
Ramachandra ki!
Lord Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman, Jamwan, Prince Angad, and all the monkeys prepared themselves to go into battle against King Ravan and his demon army. Ramachandra ki! On the other side, Ravan, seeing Ram, Lakshman and the monkeys, he too prepared himself for battle. And the battle began. The Lord Ram and his army moved against Ravan and the city of Lanka. What a fierce battle it was. In the midst of the fighting, Lakshman found himself lined up against Meghnad, the son of Ravan, and the most fierce defender of Lanka. The fight between them continued well into the night. They grappled in excess of fury until Meghnad struck Lakshman in his breast with his arrow, and Lakshman fell. Lakshman fell fatally wounded by an arrow from the bow of Meghnad, the son of the demon king Ravan. When Ram and the monkeys saw what had happened, they gathered around the fallen Lakshman. Ram placed his brother's head on his lap, and the monkeys, with tears in their eyes, sat down around the brothers and wept. As tears filled Lord Ram's eyes and the hushed monkey host surrounded the brothers in grief, Lakshman did not move.
Sri Guru Charan Saroj Raj Nij Man.
Hanuman stood up, impatient to do something to help the stricken Lakshman. The old and wise bear Jamwan told him, "Go and seek Sushena, the physician, O Hanuman, and bring him here right away." Hanuman left to seek Sushena, the physician. When Hanuman returned with Sushena, the physician examined Lakshman. After he had completed his examination, Sushena told Hanuman to seek herbs from a certain mountain. He told him to return with them as soon as he could. Hanuman left to seek the herbs. On reaching the mountain, Hanuman searched for the herbs but could not recognize the ones the physician requested. So he tore the whole mountain up by its root and carried it to Ram. The physician chose the herbs and placed them against Lakshman's nostrils. Lakshman recovered. As he stood up and was embraced by his brother, the Lord Ram, the monkeys rejoiced to see the brothers once again at their head in battle. When the battle was rejoined, Ram found himself face to face with the demon king Ravan himself.
रामचंद्र की
Each time Ram struck off a head or an arm of the demon king, they sprouted again and renewed the fight with added fury. Thus the Lord Rama and the demon king battled through the night, until, with no end in sight, the virtuous Vibhishan approached the Lord Rama and told him, "O my lord, as you see, shooting the heads and limbs of Ravan is to no avail, as a fresh crop grows like greed increased by gain. No, you must aim at his navel, for it is only by virtue of nectar that resides deep in his navel that he lives." With this piece of advice from Vibhishan, Ram rejoined the battle against Ravan. The Lord Ram took careful aim at Ravan, and drawing his bow to its fullest might, he struck Ravan in the navel. And Ravan fell. Ravan Chandra ki. Ram then summoned Ravan's brother Vibhishan and told him with compassion, "O Vibhishan, you must make an end to sorrow and perform the sacred rites for Ravan." Vibhishan went straight away to perform the funeral rites for his brother the demon king slain by the lord of the Raghus, Ram. Although the king Ravan was a demon, because he met his death at the hands of the Lord Rama, he gained salvation, as all the enemies of Ram are blessed who are struck by the Lord's arrow.
रामचंद्र की
The Lord Rama then told Lakshman to go with the monkeys to crown Vibhishan the king of Lanka. According to the Lord's word, Vibhishan, the virtuous brother of Ravan, was crowned king of Lanka. Rama Chandra ki. The faithful Hanuman brought Sita before the Lord Rama. She stood before him, sorely amazed at Ram's cold gaze and harsh silence. She realized that maybe because she had spent so much time in Lanka with the demon king Ravan and had been absent so long from the lord of the Raghus, he refused to acknowledge her. She realized that he wished to prove her purity. As a test of her virtue, Sita placed herself at the mercy of the fire of Agni, who rose up out of the flames, and told Ram, "O Ram, Sita is as pure as when she was taken from you in the forests of Panchavati." Sita stood up from her place amongst the flames and went and bowed at the feet of her husband, Lord Rama, Lord of the Raghus, who to the joy of all was reunited with her once again. Rama Chandra ki.
Sri Guru Charan Saroj Raj.
Lord Rama, Sita, Lakshman, Hanuman and all the monkeys then left for the city of Ayodhya.
14
14 years after being exiled from the kingdom, Rama, Sita and Lakshman returned to a great welcome in Ayodhya. The Lord Rama was crowned king. He rewarded the faithful Hanuman and the other loyal companions of his exile and ruled the kingdom wisely and strictly so that under his rule there was universal happiness.
रामचंद्र की जय।